Okay, I got my car body painted yesterday, and today we're gonna just let that dry, and I'm gonna work on some of the other little details that we're gonna need for it later on. One of the ones that we're gonna need is angle iron. Over the years, the Man Creek hopper cars had a lot of repairs done to them, and one of the repairs was that they would add angle iron around the top of the car. As you can see on this one here, this top edge of the car is angle iron, and then they would do some reinforcing around the doors with some metal strips. Some steel rods would be sometimes placed in the car to hold it together. You know, and there's a lot of pictures, a lot of them, a lot of variety. It seemed like whatever was needed was done. So you can really kind of use your imagination and take this as far as you want to. When the cars were first built, they didn't even have the top angle, but I don't think it took long before that angle was put on there. So you can choose to take this as far as you want to. I'll show you how I typically do it. I almost always for sure use a top angle. Some of the other ones I skip just to give it some variety, but I'll show you how I do these angles in case you want to use them. The hard part about these angles is you can't use pre-made styrene angles because the cross section is too thick, and they look way too out of scale even in quarter scale modeling. And if you try to use a brass angle, this corner is not sharp enough, it's too round, and so the only way I've been able to come up with an angle that works is to just build my own angle. And the way I do it is I use the evergreen 10 thousandths by 125 thousandths strip styrene, and I glue them edge to edge to make an angle. And you can see this is one left over from the last car I did. I pre-weather them before I put them on the car. And it's a little bit challenging to make them, and excuse me, but I'll show you how I make them here. You're going to need to make 2 angles for one car, and if you're doing 3 cars, you'll need to make 3 angles, because each car takes about 1 1/3 of the angle that you're making. So you can make 2 cars out of 3 angles, 3 angle irons. So if you're making 1 car, you're going to need to take out 4 pieces of the 10 thousandths by 125 thousandths styrene. And the way I do it, and I'm just going to do it with a short piece here because I have this piece left over here, is I'll make it so I can use it here. I generally make these in full strips, though. I don't make short ones like this, although it might be easier actually. Then I just take, this is just a simple machinist square, and I just use it because it's heavy and I can push up against it here. Then I take a piece of our scrap or leftover basswood here, and what I do is put this tight to the square. Then I lay one strip down on the wood here and push it tight to this piece of the square. And then I hold this, or set this vertical on there. And again, I use my touch and flow here. I've already got a little bit of solvent in it. And I'm going to try to do this with this camera in my way here. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push this, make sure the bottom one's tight to that back angle, and I'm going to just hold this also to the back angle lightly so I don't move this weight. And I'm just going to put a drop in that corner, and that's just going to kind of basically tack weld that in there. And then move back here, making sure that back is tight against there. And another little quick drop on there. Now it's being held together, and then I just take and do quick little swipe on there. And while that's wet, I just kind of push it all down and together. And there you've got your angle. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but it wasn't quite tight in this middle spot, but when the solvent's still wet, you can kind of go ahead and push everything back together and make sure it's pretty square. Check for any spots that the glue didn't take, like this end here. I don't know if you can see that. See how it's open like that? And then you can go ahead and just hold it together and now if you get let this dry, and if you get areas that are it's better to have, how can I show this? When you're gluing the, we'll let these represent the styrene. When you're gluing the styrene, it's better to have it be obviously perfect, but it's better to err with a slight edge on the back here, because we can file that off. If you err with it looking like this, you're going to see that line. It's not going to look as much like an angle. So it's better to have it be more like that or perfect than to have it like that. So inspect your angle along the back. If you have it like this, go ahead and while the solvent's still wet, and then just take your finger and push and kind of work that thing back together into perfect shape. When it's dry, we can take it and you can see, I don't know if you can see, I've got the condition where this is hanging over a little bit on this side. I'll hold it to a piece of wood so it's square, and I'll run a file, just a little file here, and clean off that there. Now you can see that one's pretty much right on. So go ahead and make 2 of those now, because I do so many of these. I've actually come up with this little jig here, and what this jig does is it holds the bottom one perfectly tight down and back to this stop, back here, and then these, they have a little bit of a bevel on here, and they push this top one back onto there. Now everything's made out of styrene, so I have to work pretty fast on it, and I'll just advance it along. Give it a swipe, advance it along, give it a swipe, and I keep doing that. Making sure that's tight on there. Until I've got a full angle. So go ahead and make 2 full long ones, or a full one and maybe a short one, just so you can get enough to go around the perimeter of the top of the car.